Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here on this glorious day. And we have a special treat for you. We have the second episode of Bang Ahead STEM. If you missed last week, hopefully you have, in the meantime, done research as to what STEM is. I'm, of course, Gregor Guy, depending on how you know me, joined here by Mr. Casey and Mr. Cuz, who put this nice presentation for the kiddies out there together. So I'm going to toss it over to you.
Okay, so for this episode of STEM, we're going to talk about the possibility of holographic video images and how they're going to implement it in the future, because it's not quite ready. Let's get into it, though.
Okay.
So, the technology that they're going to use for the holographic video systems is going to be nano antennas, and they're going to be electrically switchable plasmatic nano antennas, conductive metallic polymers, which are used in like transistors.
What is a nano antenna?
A nano antenna is tiny little, I don't know how to explain it really. They're electrically charged, I guess you could say like electrons. They're not really antennas, they're just called antennas. You don't have like wires sticking out. Well, you do kind of, but it's like...
Okay, let me theorize something here and tell me how far off I am. It's basically some sort of particle,
yeah.
some form of atoms, as you said, maybe
Yeah,
like
it's
electrons or
atoms.
something that receives and transmits.
Right, yeah.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Moving on.
Any questions for that? Or
Is it like lights? Are we talking about lights floating in the air, or is it reflecting off of something?
that I do not know. It's still being messed around with, so I'm not too sure.
Still in its infancy.
Yeah.
I do want to say that the first thing that came to mind when you said something about that was, if you all remember the first Star Wars movie where they had the it was like a game board where the Wookiee and R2-D2 were playing against each other and they were like fighting each other.
Are you talking about episode 4 or episode 1?
It would be episode 4.
Okay. So the one that was...
Well, that's good that you brought up. So you're talking about like images, right?
Right.
So here's the thing with the images, is that the smartphones of today, like the best smartphones,
Right.
you would need 100 times the pixels of the best smartphones today in order to achieve this type of hologram.
So this is like a far off thing.
Right.
This isn't. I mean, although we can talk about how quickly technology is moving along nowadays. But
exponentially,
for the everyday
exponentially fast rate.
for the everyday person, do they have like a timeline that they could release this?
No, this is still like prototype,
Okay.
messing around type of thing. You know what I mean? So it would take what was it? 1/1000th of a millimeter, which is a micromillimeter, for the pixels to register in a hologram, which is absurd amounts. And you would need a super high speed internet connection constantly. So like if you have hiccups in your bandwidth or whatever, you wouldn't be able to do it right now.
So going off that, doing some quick math off the top of my head, in 1 millimeter of this...
Pixels.
Well, no. What'd you call it? What was it used for? Or what are they trying to use it for again?
How do you mean?
As far as, what are they using these antennas for?
They're trying to make video holograms.
Okay. Oh, holograms. That's the word I was looking for. So 1 millimeter of the hologram will be 1 million pixels. That's crazy resolution.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, we can barely even get 4K.
We get 4K, I think, on our phones, right? The best phones right now are about 4K.
Yeah.
So 100 times 4K.
I think this is
That's crazy. That would also only be 400,000. So it would be like almost 2.2 Anyway,
No.
sorry. Go
All
on.
right.
D.
So if you really want to know what it would take 50,000 DPI, which is pixels per inch.
Now, I do have another question. Is this with the naked eye? You're seeing these things with the naked eye, or is it like, because the thing that I have in my mind is like
Virtual reality.
kind of like a virtual reality, but
Yeah, that's
you
what
kind of
it's-
see how, like, when you watch a 3D movie, right? You just have this cheap pair of sunglasses on that allows you to see the red and the greens come together in a way
It's
where
with
it
the
pops
virtual
out
reality,
at you.
so you're like plugging in, like the metaverse thing with Facebook and all.
Well, what I was thinking is, like, maybe you just had a pair of sunglasses that like, if everybody's sitting around at a business table and you're gonna watch this hologram type thing. Does everybody just put on a pair of
You
sunglasses?
probably wouldn't
and be
need
able
to
see
be at the business table. You could probably do the business at home with the glasses or whatever they come up with at the time, whenever it becomes available. Because I imagine it probably won't be available to the public. It'll probably be like businesses and stuff like that, corporations.
Okay, well, also going off that and talking about the nano antennas and everything, would you even realistically need one of these pairs of glasses?
I mean, that would be awesome if you could have like a wrist that it just, you know what I mean, like a sci-fi movie. That would be awesome. But
Technology, kids.
who knows where it'll branch off? All we know is that right now, in its infancy, this is where they're at.
Now my other question would be: would this be more of a virtual reality or more or less like an augmented reality? I mean, now we're kind of like theorizing about.
Yeah, this is like theory.
Okay, can somebody tell me what the difference between augmented reality and virtual? The differences between virtual reality and augmented reality.
You have Now I'll take this one if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
You have done a little bit with virtual reality, games and whatnot, right?
Right.
Okay, you are in that space.
Right.
Augmented reality is more or less this table is still here, but you can build like virtual stuff on top of that said table.
Virtual.
I mean, don't you remember the what was that? Microsoft HoloLens.
Right.
That's augmented reality versus virtual reality.
I don't think you understand. Still.
I do understand. I think that I think virtual reality makes more sense personally, in my personal opinion, where people would.
And that's
plug
probably where it'll
themselves
end up going.
Right.
Like you just unplug from existence.
I mean, not saying that in future it may not be possible to do what you're saying, but I think in reality, it's just going to be much easier and much more.
Now, keep in mind, this is
Right.
they're focusing on holographic.
Right.
So, yeah, they want you to use your own eyes, in a
Right.
sense, and see the pixels in real life, almost in like 4D, 3D.
So then it would make more sense to use this for like an augmented reality type
Right.
deal, rather than just like a full virtual,
Mhm.
Immersion kind of.
Almost like virtual and reality are converging together.
So now, kind of what I'm thinking about is, I don't know if you guys watched like Star Trek. They had a room. I don't remember what it was called. They
The
had
holodeck.
The holodeck, where you would walk into the room and it would create
Right.
objects around you that you could touch and feel. I'm sure they're if they're very far away from creating the actual image compared to being able to feel and touch the image in the world around you.
Can you imagine a fighting simulator?
I mean, they had that too.
You would come out bruised, bloody lip.
Right.
Well, no, if we're going off the Star Trek thing, I think they had like safety protocols
They did.
involved so that you didn't actually get hurt.
But there was episodes
So it'd be like a
where
stimulation,
the safety cut protocol was broken, and people were actually like getting hurt and dying inside the holodeck.
If we're gonna go down this rabbit hole, imagine because we see movies where it's like you want to have sex and they put it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Imagine if that happens.
Well,
where nobody really has sex anymore because at that point, if technology goes that far, then
Right.
they would just make babies in a lab.
Right.
So to get the stimulation, you would just kind of. go into your own little world with your significant other.
I don't even think that you would be going into the world with your significant other. I think you'd be going into the world with this virtual person that you created for yourself.
So you think that humans will just never interact with each other?
Exactly. I mean, you can see it. You can see it nowadays. There's two people. You go anywhere. There's two people sitting directly next to each other on their phones,
Texting.
That's true.
possibly texting each other, but also possibly texting just anybody else.
More or less, they're texting each other.
Yeah.
Right.
And the negative, the downside of that is that there's no human interaction like there used to be. Like we were just sitting there without a phone. Eventually, we sit there long enough, we're going to spark up a conversation about something. But nowadays, everybody is just on their phone. They're not even paying attention.
Let's be honest. People would be put at a loss nowadays if the technology that we have nowadays.
Well, certain people, like the
they wouldn't
generation
know how to act.
Younger than us would be put at a loss. We were there before it, so we had a little bit of a head start with non-technology, like the smartphones and stuff like that. But the younger generations, they're growing up with it. They have grown up with it, so I think they'll be more impacted than we are.
It's pretty much all they know.
Yeah, that is literally all they know. They grow up with tablets.
Well, one of my favorite videos on YouTube was this little girl. The grandmother asked the little girl to call somebody on a dial phone, and she had no idea. First of all, she had no idea that it was even a phone.
Yeah, what it was.
I can see it now. I haven't seen this video, but I could.
Yeah,
I mean, we're kind of going off on a little bit of
no. This is
a little bit of a tangent.
A little bit of a tangent that it kind of has, but we're more or less talking about how the technology is changing us and changing the way our lives are and will be in the future.
Now, going off of technology, how long do you think, because it progresses very rapidly in today's world, how long do you think something like this is going to be available to people? Based off what's going on now.
That depends on whether or not Elon Musk is behind it.
That's true.
That'd be my opinion.
Well, if you want to go...
Probably will be an unpopular one.
Probably when he gets to Mars.
But let's say that, I mean, the way that things are progressing so quickly technology-wise, and personally, in my opinion, we're going to hit a plateau here shortly.
You think?
Because not because of more along the lines because of the way people are nowadays. I think that people are just doing less work and are refusing to do work, and I think that I'm going off on a little bit of
that's more of a societal, systemic issue.
But wouldn't technology be at the forefront of that? Like, people are doing less work, but...
I mean, it is. It is right now.
Augment it or whatever it is. And people don't have to work as hard.
Let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly. You're basically saying that people are doing less physical labor,
right,
versus more work in like a technology and engineering kind of space.
Right. Well, if people are doing less physical labor, I mean, you can have all the technology in the world to connect with each other and do all that. But if there's no physical labor, you're not going to have anything to eat. You're not going to have anything to survive.
Because...
Or let the robots do everything for you.
Guy, your dad actually was talking about this when we were outside that one day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all robots doing the labor with vegetables and whatnot. There's one guy, didn't he say it was like one guy?
Well, it was one company.
Yeah, one company, and they all... They watered and all the way through this production line.
Right. But somebody has to create that technology.
Right, but you don't need physical labor after that's created. So the person's got to put in the work to create it.
Somebody we can all...
somebody has to repair those...
I can fill them in on all of this later.
Yeah.
Somebody has to repair those machines out in the farms. Because they're not...
At that point, but then you could just make a robot...
Fair enough.
Right.
Anything else on this particular topic?
As of right now, the metallic polymers that they're using to play around with this technology are used in, what did I have here? in commercial displays and in certain types of batteries. So in anti-static materials, basically. Anything that has
anything that can shield electromagnetic frequencies.
right, electromagnetic is really
Okay.
yeah, and that's basically where we're at with this.
It's crazy. It'll be interesting to watch this one progress. I
Yeah.
But,
We keep an eye on this
at
one.
the same point in time,
Yeah, but
we might even all be
exist.
dead by the time that comes around.
Yeah, or live forever.
So, final thoughts. Final thoughts.
Technology's crazy. The world's
Technology
crazy
is
that we live in today. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Cuz, for putting together this week's STEM entry on nano antennas and possibly the future that we will be living in here sooner or later.
Holographic videos.
I'm, of course, Gregor Guy, joined here by Mr. Casey and Mr. Cuz. Once again, thank you for putting that together. There you go. You have it. That is episode 2 of Banghead STEM.
If you enjoyed the video,
Remember to like, share,
subscribe.
Hit that bell button.
and drop any comments you feel relevant into this particular technology
Yeah, please.
down below.
Let's have a
We
discussion.
want to hear from you.
We'll be back.